but there's crisis coming to this country.
A counter-insurgency publication, Zagazola Makama, focused on the Lake Chad region, reported over the weekend that members of a new terrorist group, Lakurama, are offering financial incentives to recruit young people in Sokoto State. According to the publication, the new group is offering as much as 1 million naira to young men in exchange for their allegiance. Makama quoted sources saying that the financial initiatives are part of an aggressive recruitment campaign aimed at attracting followers to their cause.
Finally, Arise News has gathered mind to report about the insecurity situation in Nigeria. When I see all these mainstream media report about the reality on ground, it gives me so much joy, because a lot of people are using one eye to look at us like, where do you people see all this news that you people are bringing up? Because maybe the thing has not happened to them, or the thing is not happening in their area. Why Tinubu travel to Saudi Arabia for Islamic Summit? The new terrorist group in Nigeria are doing something they call wonderfully evil. Yeah, wonderfully evil. What are they doing? They are giving 1 million to each person in Nigeria, starting from Sokoto. If you want to embrace Sharia, they give you 1 million naira. Tell me, the poverty-ravaged Nigeria, who is not going to take 1 million naira? Something is going on. Let's listen to Arise News. We'll come back to talk about this.
There's huge insecurity in the land at this moment, and I saw a lot of reactions regarding that. If I come to you, Rufai, in the meantime, a counter-insurgency publication, Zagazola Makama, focused on the Lake Chad region, reported over the weekend that members of a new terrorist group, Lakurama, are offering financial incentives to recruit young people in Sokoto State. According to the publication, the new group is offering as much as 1 million naira to young men in exchange for their allegiance. Makama quoted sources saying that the financial initiatives are part of an aggressive recruitment campaign aimed at attracting followers to their cause. The group are reported to adhere to extremist ideologies similar to the beliefs of Boko Haram. Well, we know that over the weekend, the group had killed about 15 people in Kebbi State. Defense headquarters recently declared 9 suspected members of the group wanted. I believe the spokesperson, Edward Buba, had said that, the terrorists were from the Niger Republic, and they came from that time when there was that sort of disruption between Nigeria and Niger. Let me take a reaction with this story. This is from Chief Emmanuel, who wrote, "This development is deeply concerning and highlights an urgent need for a coordinated response to counter extremism in Nigeria's northwest. The Lakurawa group's tactic of offering substantial financial incentives to economically vulnerable youth in Sokoto directly targets those who may feel they have few options. This, combined with extremist ideology, poses a serious threat to stability in the region. The presence of individuals reportedly from Mali, Chad, Libya, Niger, and Burkina Faso indicates a transnational dimension to this group, transforming it into a regional security issue. Extremist groups like Lakurawa exploit local grievances such as economic hardship and lack of opportunities to attract recruits, often creating a dangerous sense of belonging for disenfranchised young people. Relevant agencies like the Nigerian Army, Nigerian Police Force, the Department of State Services must increase surveillance and intelligent efforts to monitor and counter this threat. Additionally, agencies focused on economic development, such as Nigerian Youth Investment Fund, can collaborate to offer alternative pathways through job creation, education, and skill development programs. This joint approach, combining security with socio-economic intervention, can help protect communities from exploitation by extremist groups. I thought that was such an important message from that Twitter user, especially the last part where he talked about, the collaboration of trying to have this sort of, initiative where you can engage young people in skill work.
Okay, so a couple of things. I'll merge 2 stories together. As regards this terrorist group, Oji, For this terrorist group to even bring out, say they want to give people 1 million naira, then there are people funding them. What has the government done to at first block the financial muscle of this group? For every bullet shot, people are buying those bullets. So the government should be able to come in with intelligence, NFIU and the likes to see who are those funding this group. Secondly, use intelligence and drones and everything to swoop in on them.
Absolutely.
Thirdly, the economic condition. After the Metisani riots, it was said that if we don't fix the economic condition of the north and some other areas, then we're going to have long-lasting problems. Those problems have come home to roost now. Hernando de Soto famously wrote about the mystery of capital. It was Hernando de Soto's suggestion that helped end most of the war in his native Peru. He said, give property rights and give economic empowerment to the people of a certain area, and the role of insurgent group will stop. Because these people too, we have foot soldiers in those communities because of the economic empowerment. Absolutely. So how can we turn that around? The last tweet has talked about things like empowerment schemes in those areas.
Yes.
So let's work on this, but most importantly, let's find the money. When a revelation was made in Dubai, I regard people that were funding some terrorist group in Nigeria. Till today, those people have not been brought to book. So we must be able to stop the money trail so that groups like this do not become a problem, because it's fast becoming a problem and this situation is morphing and morphing. I
mean, for me, Vimba, is the brazen disregard for our security forces. These people are out there in broad daylight. I tried to send the video to our, correspondent in the north, and they said they were not speaking Hausa, they were speaking Fufude. And it's quite rare to see people just out there. What is the location? Why is it possible for them to be able to do this? Before I stop, come to you in the meantime.
All right, I want to ask you some questions. Are you really ready of what might be coming? For the people in the southeast, I think you people are very lucky. The reason why I said you are lucky is because the people from the southeast has been preparing for all these things, right from time. They used to speak about this thing, but people from other regions will look at them as ordinary secessionists who want to talk about some narrative to defend their secession quest. But we are now beginning to see the reality on ground, that everything they have said, especially that of nnamdi kanu and some persons, you have come to realize that all these things are true. Just look at, they said they are new terrorists. Now let me decode this issue of a new terrorist group or new. They are preachers, according to the villagers. They come to teach them about Sharia. Now they are promising them 1 million naira. Just agree that, I am embracing your teaching of Sharia. 1 million naira cash. Now, I don't mean to offend anybody, but I want to tell you this. Do you remember that someone like Asari Dokubo, who was not a Muslim before, after the deeds and done during Yaradua time, he was given incentives and so on and so forth. Later, he became a Muslim. He embraced it. So these are the system, or these are the plans they are trying to use. Now, first of all, they know that almost all of them are poor. People from the north, those regions, they have sacked almost everybody. The only thing they have to do is to farm, and that farm they will pay tax to these terrorists as well. So there is no money. So for them to give you just 1 million naira, for you to agree to what they are doing, come on. Someone should share this video. Share this video and tag whoever you want to tag. The reason why I'm saying this is because I want you to get ready for what is coming. I want you to get ready for what is coming, because what is coming is not what you're expecting. Honestly, it's not what you're expecting. Dangerous time ahead. We must get ready to make sure that we succeed, we overcome all these things. Let us hold our head high. The first thing we are doing is that the creation of awareness. We are trying to make sure that everybody must be aware of what is happening. That is my primary work, to tell you what is happening. And I promise you that I will only tell you what is true. Nothing but the truth. So that you will be able to prepare for the dangerous time that is coming. Dangerous time that is coming. 1 million. Some people will say, oh no, leave them. It is enough. Do you think in your village they give them 1 million to turn to, embracing Sharia that they will not embrace in your village? I'm just asking for asking sake. You think so? Oh my goodness. I don't have much thing to say. What this man, Mr. Kunde Onawobi, said is 100% correct. I have come to embrace the truth. He said on Chinese television, there is no two ways about this, and there is no going back. Get ready.
But there's crisis coming to this country. Fuel, petrol will be one of the causative agents of revolution in Nigeria, because we can't explain it. Why we will continue to import finished products in a country that has 4 refineries, plus this new one of a private one, and yet we are talking about, importing fuel. Something must be fundamentally wrong.
Let's begin with the efforts to get the leader of ipob, Nnamdi Kanu, out of incarceration. What's the update on that?
Well, it's a topic I'm very passionate about, very, very. I had seen him in the DSS cell 2 times, and each time it was a very emotional moment for both of us. I've been with him in the court premises, about 2 or 3 times, and I've spoken there. We had a joint press conference on one occasion. I don't know why. I think it's something you can summarize as hate, and you can't find a reason for the hate other than making reference back to Muhammad Buhari's period, who organized and arrested him in Kenya. He must have a special reason why he did what he did, because other people had the same problem. There's a young man who was also arrested in Benin Republic or so, and later came back here after Buhari left office. But if Boko Haram people, bandits who regularly kill people in this country, are being given amnesty by the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and in some cases rehabilitate them, why hold Nnamdi Kanu, who had publicly assured government, if you let me go, I will help you increase security in the southeast and any other part you might require my services? They would have taken a risk on that. But as we speak, they are still granting amnesty to Boko Haram people who kill hundreds of people on a regular basis. Why hold him? Do you remember when last you heard of somebody dying in the southeast because of Nnamdi Kanu? That's a long time ago. And people were doing it, as a way of making money, using his name. And he said that severally. On one occasion, he told me to speak on his behalf, and on this platform, I said so. So the government alone can explain, especially for somebody like President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who himself was a revolutionary in some sense. He understands what freedom means. He understands what democracy means, because he fought for it. I don't know where he's coming from now. It's difficult to explain where he's coming from, honestly.
All right, Chief, let's go to the End Bad Governance protest that just, happened recently. And we understand the Southeast didn't join in this protest. Is it true that the Southeast observed sit at home and preferred that to joining the protest? And I'm asking this because even the release of Nnamdi Kanu was one of the demands of the protesters, but the Southeasterners just chose not to join that protest. Why?
Well, before I get to answering that, sometimes it's good to look at the antecedents of people in government. And I put my mind back to 1960, from America, from JFK to Johnson to Nixon to Ford to the Peanut president to Reagan to Bush Sr., to Clinton, to Bush Jr., to Obama, and then down to Trump, then Biden now. None of them has been it's either you're a senator or a governor. At least I made back to 1960. This is the first time in this country and in the world that you see people coming to power. He was a legislator. Our president, Ahmed Tinubu, was a senator of the Federal Republic and 8 years governor of Lagos State. His vice presidential candidate was a senator of the Federal Republic and 8 years governor of Borno State. His wife, the first lady of this country, was a senator of the Federal Republic. The chief of staff of this government was Speaker of the Federal House of Representatives. So they come with superlative, attributes of legislative and executive reference. And in fact, you can also extend it to the fact that they have also captured the judiciary. So what is their problem? It is difficult to explain what their problem is because people are demonstrating. Is it that people are not hungry? I'm hungry. When I declared myself hungry, hitherto when I go to my town with X amount of money, apart from, buying kola nuts and drinks for people who visit me, I now go with sufficient amount of money because people who were not asking me for help were not asking for help. And I regard my community as, you can't count 5 towns in this country without counting my town, where we had a good, successful middle class. But there is so much problem. If there could be so much problem at Nnewi, then many other towns must be in trouble. So why they should have ordinarily set up a committee to identify why did these young men protest? What were they protesting? And they itemized their reasons. And we could see the government making every serious effort to infiltrate them. You tear gas your citizens. You kill them because they protested. Is that leadership? For a man who led protests in this country against a government, a democratically elected government, and you're doing exactly the same. Sometimes I doubt if there is hope. I'm not one of those who spread, malignant pessimism against Nigeria, no. I believe there is hope for the future, but what I'm seeing now does not offer hope for the future.
And to my question.
Sorry?
As to why the Southeast didn't join but observed
why should you think the South issues? We're already an occupied territory. If we had raised that is why they won or fight against terrorism in Northeast and Northwest. It's not working because more than 20% of the Nigerian armed forces are in the Southeast. Every inch of the ground is occupied. You cannot run more than 20, 30 kilometers anywhere in the Southeast without 2 or 3 checkpoints. Army, police, Air Force, and if you go further down, then the Navy joins them. And I personally advise, I have a network, say, don't you dare. Because what happened in 1973 as I was leaving the University of Nigeria, Africa, that was the second graduation after the Civil War. They introduced this National Youth Service Corps. I was the first set of National Youth Service Corps. And the whole university said, we'll burn down the university. Why am I that? They are now doing it to increase the years of suffering of the Igbos. 32.5 years of the war was not enough. They now want to add us extra year. And a military officer, who incidentally was not Igbo, a Northerner, called me and said, 1 year, if that is the sacrifice your people will make for the stability of Igbo land, you can afford to do it. Don't allow any blood to be shed here. And at the Freedom Square, I got up. Then Professor Linya was the Vice Chancellor. I got up and spoke to the students, and everybody walked away. And we went for youth service. Where are we today? Every other part of this country, they are doing youth service. But it was actually directed for a particular people. And we refused to bow. So I told people, if you don't have need to demonstrate, we're already where we are. There are Igbos across this country who joined the demonstration, and you saw them on television, on your network, speaking in Kaduna, in Lagos, Ibadan, every other place. But in Igbo land, I said no. Because when they open fire there, it will be disastrous. So I thank God that we didn't join, at least at home. But we expressed interest and support outside Igbo land.
Chief, the protest has held, and I think it was on Sunday morning after the protest. I think that was day 4 of the protest that the president came out to speak to the nation about the protests. How do you? I'm sure you listened to that speech.
Yes. Well, I watched it live, and I watched the commentary of many people. I think it was Wole Soyinka who said it was rubbish. Yes, that's the word he used. And so many other people. Afani Fere condemned it in totality, giving it different reasoning about true federalism. That was not what the president was talking about. I would have expected somebody at that level where your citizens, under your own watch, let me not say under your authority. I don't know how they give authority to the police to act. Police will tell you they're acting in self-defense when they see that they are being attacked. But we also saw the police with vehicles, pro-government demonstrators coming to the stadium. We saw them being, your network showed them being given money, and they infiltrated and joined the regular, the honest protesters, and they started tear gassing them. So what I'm saying is that it's difficult to explain why the president on that speech would not have said, okay, you have demonstrated, you have protested, because protest is about, problems, unresolved grievances. That is what protest is all about. If I say that, Kunle and Nkoli, what you're doing, I start protesting here. It's one man protest, but there's something I'm trying to emphasize for people to notice, to take notice of. You would have itemized, first is hunger, that they are hungry. Is he telling me that he lives in London, that he doesn't know that his citizens are hungry? I'm setting up a committee in the next 4 days to address this. For all the items you listed, Give me 2 months to start effectively addressing them. That would have meant something to, even if you didn't finally do it in 2 months, people will know that you're actively and seriously reacting to the protest. But when you look at his broadcast, it was neither here nor there. He couldn't be bothered, as if he was, how can really they be bothered? How many times has he been in Paris? That was the last time he was there, for about almost 2 or 3 weeks. So some of them rule us from foreign land, go to Dubai, and they won't create a Dubai, Paris here. They will always run into the plane and go there, shamelessly, I must say. So I would have expected him, directly answering your question, to itemize the demands of the protesters and address them, which wasn't done.
Now, one of the demands of the protesters is the reversal of fuel subsidy removal, that government should bring it back. In fact, one of the protesters said, well, if we cannot go forward, then let's go back to where we're coming from, But I've also listened to the executive try, frantically to explain why going back and bringing back subsidy may not be the best option. Some have also offered that if our refineries start producing and we increase, our production locally, that all these prices may be forced down, whether or not fuel subsidy is brought back or not. So let's get your take on that.
Look, what Tinubu has done in the past couple of weeks is what I call situational politics, the politics of convenience. How can you go to, what square do we call it in Abuja here? Eagle Square, what? What is the square where they normally do parade here? Eagle Square. And you make a pronouncement, you're removing subsidy. One would have expected a very intelligent politician to say, today I'm making an announcement, removal of first subsidy. In the next 4 days, in the next 1 week, a committee is already at work to look at the modalities of doing this so that Nigerians will not suffer. It will not go from fry pan to fire. He didn't say that. He just removed subsidy. He just floated the Naira. That shows you a lack of planning and understanding. And that's why I gave the background. Look at the people with him in government. All of them with legislative and executive experience. So they are not coming to this office as Johnny just come. They know where they were coming from and where they were going. But when you look at their pronouncement, then you seriously don't have hope for my country in terms of leadership. It's a big pity.
In other words, you're supporting, bringing the petrol subsidy back, or getting other,
well, it depends on
other things done to cushion the impact.
I have never been in the oil business, but I have known many people who feed out of the oil business illegally, corruptively. Most of the corruption in this country is in oil. It is a way of life. Governments know it. Either those stealing at the wharf or on the high seas, it is effectively aided by government. Because if government wants to stop oil theft, they will do it. What are our navies doing? Are we at war anywhere? We have navy ships all over the place. And still people come and collect hundreds of barrels, thousands of barrels of oil and leave our shores. And they tell us story. Because it's serious money. We are talking of very serious money on a daily basis. So sometimes they will catch and, like in those days when you see police announce that they have caught some armed robbers. Then these are armed robbers they didn't know, that they didn't tell them where they were going. It was that bad with the Nigerian police in the 50s, in the 60s and 70s. Because the police is so active that wherever you go to steal, they will catch you. But the ones they know, they will pretend as if they didn't know what happened. Go and steal from a police barrack. 24 hours, they will catch you. Wherever those thieves come from, they will catch them.
Okay, Chief, we're going to go on a break now, but we'll continue with this interview after we are done with Kakaki Social. So we ask you to just stay with us. We'll be back. So we'll take a break, and Rena Obozege will be here. Of course, Chief Netizen of Kakaki, I call her. She will be here in a moment to tell you the goings-on the streets of the social media. Still watching Kakaki, the African Voice, and leaving off from the Kakaki Social, we'll come back to conclude our conversation with Chief Dan Ulasi, former chairman of the People's Democratic Party in Anambra State, and of course a political analyst and commentator who's joined us to look at the state of the nation this morning. Now, Chief, before we went on break, you were talking about a number of issues concerning the End Bad Governance protest. And I'd like to find out from you as we close. The Chief of Defense Staff came out to speak to protest, to warn protesters at some point that the military will not brook any act of treason or whatsoever from any of the protesters. And at a time when Nigeria has greater issues with security, especially all across the northeast, northwest, and virtually all across the country.
You know,
so what are your concerns concerning insecurity there?
Well, I will start by saying that, you know, the past 9.5 years, I'm not trying to shield PDP, but it wasn't that bad. The past 9.5 years, the APC as a party has been spreading an epidemic of dishonest misinformation to Nigerians. It is that epidemic that crystallized itself, unfortunately, under Tinubu, that led to the riots you're seeing, the protests, everything heightened up. 8 years of Buhari was a disaster. I've said it severally. People who, you know, some friends of mine, I had said it once on this platform. 2015, the Channels Television, you know, I had a major 1-hour interview with them, and I said this will be a disaster if this man becomes president of Nigeria, because I had the misfortune of meeting him as chairman of PTF with my late cousin, Major General Sam Moma, and I couldn't know where he was coming from. And this man eventually catapulted himself. Under the military, yes, anything goes, but to become president of Nigeria, and you saw the 8 years wasted. So if, as it were, it was a political bastardization, that nothing worked, nothing happened. But Tinubu was washing it. He made matters worse by saying that he will continue with the good works of Muhammadu Buhari. Maybe it's a political statement. But it's now seen that the tragedy that was Buhari, even if you had put in P2B or Atiku or anybody else, probably they will have different modalities of trying to come out of the problem. The problem was so much that you needed very strong, intellectually placed people to sit down and look at the disaster Buhari caused to this country. So it will still take time before we can come out of the woods, but we need honesty. And this honesty supposes that government must speak with one voice, but you don't know who is speaking. There's one somebody that we have a press secretary. There's one this one that was insulting P2B. I don't remember his name. Different comments coming from government, which you can't explain. In a difficult situation we have in this country, Mr. President, if you are the only one that will speak, please let us hold you accountable and quote you, because we can't be quoting your this thing by insulting people. You don't insult people. You don't solve problems by insulting people. You have to, firstly, squarely face the problems and itemize your solutions to them. And this is the first sample of what is going to come. Because if they don't do anything to solve this problem, they need to be a disaster. I think reference to the Chief of Defense Staff, I was amazed. Having been an officer in the Biafra army, each time I see soldiers, I feel excited. But when a soldier becomes a politician by making commentaries that he shouldn't make, we have a Minister of Information. That was a National Security Council that just finished meeting. Even if a soldier was to speak, not the Chief of Defense Staff, we have a military spokesman who is a Major General. He didn't talk. And the Chief of Defense Staff just came out and rather ruthlessly, they will deal with those who want to truncate democracy. I wish he would use the same force to deal with those who are already truncating democracy in Northeast and Northwest, which is their primary responsibility. Because, gallant at the rear. What would civilians demonstrating? What would they do? I didn't see of anybody arrested with weapons, either AK-47. If there was, I do apologize, but I didn't hear any of your networks talk of somebody arrested with weapons, they're trying to do this, they're trying to do that. So why make reference to those trying to truncate democracy, just for the sake of saying something, when the main problem holding this country down is in the Northeast and Northwest? So I thought it was an unfortunate comment for him.
Okay, Chief, you're always very vocal, and that's why sometimes when you talk, there may be a misunderstanding about what you say. There appears to be a misunderstanding of a recent interview you granted where you were referring to Tinubu as having won the 2023 election, and you said with common sense. Could you clarify what you meant
Well,
by that?
you know, that's what I call speculative literature. It's part of social science. You know, two of you may not have been classmates, and you know, it was Arise Television that I had an interview with. You may not have been classmates, but you find yourself every morning. You know, Nigerians look forward to listening to you. They learn something from your commentaries, from your questioning, from your attitude. They learn something. This is common sense. Common sense of knowing where to be at a particular point in time. What you want. You need common sense to pass 1, 2, 3, 4 secondary schools, and you choose A or B. That gives you an advantage because of your common sense. Sometimes that common sense might not be common, because if it was common, people would pick it on the street. It is not common. But it is that common sense that energizes you to think properly and apply that knowledge into your future. That's what I was trying to explain. That you don't look at Buhari out of Tinubu out of 270 million people, and he suddenly, it wasn't a coincidence, it wasn't whatever that he became president of Nigeria. He planned it. And he said it, that it is his turn, even though it was a statement I regarded as foolish. But he realized it when he said it was his turn. Nigerians did nothing. A few people may have commented, this is not your father's compound. I was among those who said, even if it's your turn, I mean, you should discuss with your brethren, your brothers and sisters, whether indeed it's your turn. But you could be head of your family by Igbo succession, the first son, when the father dies, become the head of the family. That one is your turn. But to tell me that it's your turn to be president of Nigeria. Today, he's president of Nigeria, so maybe it's his turn. So when it's nearing 2027, I'll probably have an interview to say also it is my turn, and hope people can help me raise funds. Because if I'm president, both of you will benefit, and you know you will surely benefit.
Oh, God. Anyway, Chief, before we go, let's quickly. We're seeing you for the first time since the Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy. What are your thoughts on that? Have you had a chance to look at that
it's difficult
judgment?
to know if the Supreme Court is now a legislative body. Because I know the Constitution of Nigeria talks about a joint state and local government account where money should be paid in. If I'm wrong, please correct me. I know the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria says money for local government will be paid into a joint account of the state and the local government, where even the state government will pay in some money, and they share it for the purposes of development in the local government. So what was the Supreme Court trying to do? Create or explain, because their job is to explain the Constitution of the Federal Republic, if there is conflict.
Interpret.
To interpret it, as it were. So was there any conflict that they were trying to interpret, that money should be now paid direct to local government? How about the Constitution that said there is a joint account that money should be paid in? Because if that one is allowed to stand, the Supreme Court can also, one day, maybe the government goes to court, and they said the INEC should conduct direct elections in local government, in states. It is possible. Because if nobody challenges this, that's a constitutional provision. That said, you pay money into this account. And the Supreme Court says, no, now you pay direct to local government. Exciting as good as it is, but that's not the constitutional process. That's a process to have changed that, and it's not the responsibility of the Supreme Court to do that.
But the Constitution also recognizes the local government as the third tier of government.
Yes. Recognizing that it still says money for local government should be paid into a joint account between the state and the local government. The Constitution does not say money should be paid directly to them. So why did the Supreme Court create that? I'm not an attorney. So if I'm wrong, I apologize, but at least I understand simple English, and I read it well. So I didn't see why. It's a very dangerous precedent they have set, because if they have to explain out Nigerian Constitution as it is, convenient for them, they will use it in some other areas that any other, mischievous government will want to, and it becomes a one-party state. That's what happens in Soviet Union, where they have a democratic centralism. Just like you see the young men demonstrating, carrying flag. I was listening to people. It's a simple explanation that capitalism has failed. They want socialism. They believe the socialist system in the East, Russia, China, and all the rest of them, that people have free food, free accommodation. That is what the Russian flag was indicating. That Russia has nothing to do with it. It's just the nature of the government there that people go hungry in the West. They don't go hungry in the East. True or false, but that is the belief we have about socialism. So those, especially in Kanu and Kaduna, carrying flags of Russian flags, it's just giving us an indication there's an alternative to the system we're operating now. And that system is better to them. You know, it's untested in this country, but true or false, they have a reason. And you don't challenge somebody's personal views.
Okay, we'll be going in just a minute or two, but let me ask you what you think the government should do now to address the demands of the protesters, at least to ensure there's no other protests regarding bad governance in the country, you know, from your own perspective.
You see, when you combine what I call, you know, bad political participation or bad political thinking, you combine it with an unyielding wave of arrogance, it leads to political blindness. You are wrong, and you know you are wrong. You're trying to justify it. There's nothing else God's government can do if sincerely they love this country. They love the people of this country. If for the president to now go back, sit down and look at all the demands of Nigerian people, including me, and set our committees, announce committees. They haven't done it here. Announce committees outside the Federal Executive Council that will address this problem and give them time lag. That's the only solution. There's no other magic. And then Nigerians will say, oh, he is seriously now addressing the reasons why people protested in the first place, so that we'll avoid this unnecessary killing, unnecessary tear gassing of people. That's unfortunate.
The CNG buses are already being rolled out, the hybrid buses. Isn't
Sorry?
that? I said the government has already released about 100, right?
No,
20,
30 actually.
30 CNG buses already, a hybrid
Well, I haven't seen, I live in Enugu, I haven't seen one.
Oh, that's in Abuja for a start.
Okay, Abuja is not Nigeria.
They were commissioned yesterday by the president.
You see? And they have been making noise about it for the past 1 month. That about, there are hundreds, the news, I heard even from your station, hundreds of it has been released to states. And I have taken time to go around, saw the government in Enugu, I haven't seen one. Because if a government should do something like that, in a day, you make sure, even if you're sending one, make sure you send one to the 36 states, so that you get to any capital city, you see one of such buses or whatever they are. But, to anticipate without any reality, it is even more dangerous than not doing at all.
Okay, Chief Dan Ulasi, before, yes, I remember now that I was trying to, some of the comments that we had on the newspaper review, I want to, since you're a member of the PDP, let me quickly ask you before we go. One of our reviewers did say that he wasn't sure that the PDP was still the vibrant party that it used to be, and he said that in reference to the goings-on in River State, wondering why the PDP would allow such goings-on to happen in a state of that has that level of importance to the PDP. How do you respond to that?
Well, you see, I would not like to comment on my party publicly, especially in the situation we find ourselves. Every leadership has its own shortcomings, or what I may call shortcomings. They have their style and their modalities of functioning. So, the problem of Wike and River State have also come into PDP on the national level. So you don't even know who is directing the party, for whose interest the party is working. I just heard that my name was put into a National Reconciliation Committee. I was informed. Okay, at least I was informed beforehand. So maybe when I have another interview, if I attend the Reconciliation Committee, I will know what it's all about. It will be my interest. I joined PDP because of Alex Ekweme. I've remained in one party. Most people in this country have moved. Look at all the people, somebody 8 years as PDP governor jumps into APC. From APC, they jump here. So you don't even have any factual reference on integrity. What does the person believe? You don't know what he believes. This is why I want to say it again. I have respect for people like Tinubu, and even he poorly performed Muhammadu Buhari. You knew he was in APC and they remained there. I'm in PDP. I've not changed party. But that does not stop me if my party brings up a bad candidate. I'll support another candidate. That's an individual preference.
But Chief, how do you think this impacts on internal party democracy? Because the bedrock of democracy actually is the political parties.
Yes.
Now, how does this impact on the parties
Even in the
generally?
political parties,
It's not just the PDP now.
There's free will. You have right to air your own view within the constitutional process of the party. It is not an anti-party activity. When the party makes it impossible for its members to express their view, that is when anti-party starts. Like you're in a primary. Some group of leaders must have decided that Kunle will be governor in Anambra State. And they don't give the others the opportunity to express their voting right. That is when problem begins. And it is the party that begins that kind of problem. So ordinarily, I don't think we have any problem other than style of leadership.
So basically what you're saying is that the problem is with the practitioners, not with the parties.
Not with the party. Nothing has changed in PDP. Nothing has changed. Even with all our problems, like I said earlier, we have 13 state governors. Recently, they were in Enugu for PDP governors meeting. I attended their dinner. And they were all very vibrant and happy, looking forward. Most of them were saying, "Oh, Gael, why don't you come in and see what we can do to push the party forward?" I said, well, I'm getting old. I'm not as young as you used to know me. Let's, encourage the younger ones to move forward and do something for the party. I don't believe that it has to be, that kind of a regeneration of one, every time it's one group of persons. No, there has to be other people to be able to help. But if they are interested, they can ask questions and they will be directed how better to do things for the overall interest of the party and the country.
All right, Chief, since we're talking about really state of the nation, let's go to the oil sector. Even though I know that you're not an oil businessman, but the issue of refinery not working in the country seems to be one of the problems the country is having. Our own local refineries, we've been told severally that they will start operating. At the Port Harcourt refinery, in fact, we were told that before Yuletide, or was it after Yuletide, it will start working. And today we are in August, almost the year coming to an end without that refinery working. And then we also have another local refinery. We're told that the government even has a stake in it, which is that owned by Dangote. And today we're also having issues about whether crude will be given to Dangote or not. I don't know what you think about it as a Nigerian citizen, and how it is impacting the lives of the people.
I will only make one statement. The corruption headquarters of Nigeria is in the oil industry. And it's so unfortunate that in all cases, the presidents of this country at various levels, PDP or APC or whatever, have also been oil ministers. From the military till today, probably more than $1 billion must have been set aside for Port Harcourt refinery. And up to today, I had an announcement, I think we have 2 ministers of state now, one of them saying that before Christmas, so the oil refinery will be ready. The one built by a private individual is not being given oil, and he was importing oil until the president directed recently that they should give him oil and sell to him in Naira. But if this is a country of some reasoning process, some intellectual content, if there are people in the oil-producing areas that have illegal, let me use the word illegal refineries, if I'm president of Nigeria, I'll be interested in knowing how they do this. I tell you sincerely, we have scientists in this country to help them. This is indigenous technology. To help them, energize it, make it better. They can even supply oil to the local communities. How can you believe that you go to part of Imo State, the whole of South, where there is oil, and they have long queues waiting to take fuel? Does that look exciting to you? So I'm not supporting illegality, but if illegality is part of innovation, that somebody is saying that I have oil in my land, and government is not refining, Port Harcourt is not working, LMA is not working, Kaduna is not working, Warri is not working, Kunde and Nkoli, something must be wrong somewhere. There must be conspiracy for this country to continue importing fuel, so people are sharing money. That is treasonable. That's what I call treason. And this might even lead to no serious, I don't want to use that word, but there's crisis coming to this country. Fuel, petrol will be one of the causative agents of revolution in Nigeria, because we can't explain it. Why we continue to import finished product in a country that has 4 refineries, plus this new one of a private one, and yet we are talking about, importing fuel. Something must be fundamentally wrong.
Okay, let's extend that into the other parts of the energy mix here. And you made a comment on the CNG buses that were released only yesterday. 20 or 30 of them were released yesterday and inaugurated by the president. What are your thoughts on the pricing of energy in Nigeria now? When you take a look at petrol, you look at diesel, you look at cooking gas, you look at electricity, and those are parts of the issues that the protests was about.
Market forces are determining now the cost of energy and all such things. Even you go to the market to buy food, a lot of factors also affect the food you buy. Because that person selling food, if it's a woman using motorcycle, she buys petrol at a high cost, carries her food, comes to the market, has to increase, put the cost of the fuel, everything that she has paid extra money. You have to pay for it when you're buying your gari or rice or whatever. So it has a multiplicity of effects that unknowingly there is no statistical evidence to lay it down that this is how this price is. And when they rise generally everywhere. We showed it's a vicious circle that government has to address. And it summarizes again what we said. There's no way government can address it than sitting down to set up serious-minded committees, not ministers, serious-minded professionals who will honestly tell government these are the problems, this is the way we can solve it. And if the president is willing and has the courage to implement such decisions, because one thing is to find out what the problem is, offer solutions, and nobody has courage to implement it. I think that's part of the problem of this country. Because we have, reports on virtually every aspect of Nigerian problem. In all the ministries, they feel everywhere. We would have paid billions of naira in one report, in one committee, something or the other. And yet the same problem continues reoccurring. And we look like fools. So there must be something fundamentally wrong somewhere that people don't want these countries to survive. That is my conclusion. Especially the one of you, I can't explain it. It's difficult.
Nobody seems to understand exactly the workings, and we're actually expecting that we would have someone from that sector to explain to us what exactly the situation is, maybe later on the program. But then let's look at the protest in itself, because many people have actually wondered, yes, there's bad governance. And I remember that before this protest, the minders of the president actually begged Nigerians not to go on a protest, reason being that they felt it may be hijacked, by people, and then there may be issues in the country. And that actually happened true to their fears in some parts of the country. And then we saw looting of even government property, people and individual properties as well in some parts of the country. Is there a way, because you've been in politics for a very long time, is there a way really protests can be organized in a country without that side, bad side of the protest, which causes pains at the end of the day?
There's serious protests going on in the United Kingdom presently because of killing of 3 young girls somewhere. I think they were stabbed or something. But that's a different style of protest. But it's also gone violent in some areas. You see, in a situation where you don't have statistical basis of making reference, who is protesting, who is not protesting, where is the person coming from, in a country where you don't even know, who are your citizens? What is our number? Are we 100 million or 200 million or 250 million? There are fundamental...
We have a figure we are working with.
No, but just listen to what I'm saying. When you tell yourself a lie, every other thing you do is a failure. Because that figure is fake. Have you gone to where census is being done in this country? The last census I spent well over 2 million naira sending people across, not just Igbo land, across the country. And you see where people in different states, someone will ask Okeko Kafo in different places, Mohammed Mutali in one polling booth, somebody will answer Okeko Kafo 10 times. And it's been listed. So if fundamentally you start telling yourself a lie, just like if Kunle has a wife and 4 children, and you go and tell yourself that you have 10 children, how are you going to maintain them? That is what the country is doing to itself. If you can't tell yourself the simple truth of the number of your citizens, that is the greatest tragedy of the Nigerian Federation. And people look at it as very simplistic, because the everything, the more number you put out, the more money you get, because we are sharing money based on population and size of environment. These are yardsticks that are tragic. And, you know, because money is involved, what do you do? And it's organized on the highest level of governance. And it becomes difficult.
Chief, I took part. I'm interested in this issue of population figures that you mentioned, because I was part of the 1991 census. And in 2006, at that time, I was on this program. I was already a journalist and monitored the conduct of the census that was held then. And one thing that was very noticeable in 2006 was one thing I will give you an example of: the disagreement between the Lagos State government and the National Population Commission on the population figures of Lagos and Kano states at that point. And it's instructive that Lagos State government believed at that time that the population of Lagos far exceeded that of Kano, while the NPC said Kano had a larger population. So what exactly do you think is the problem with gathering data in Nigeria? Why can't we have credible census figures instead of going by an estimate of, people say, an estimated 220 million people, for instance?
I have attempted to answer this question economically. In 1978-79, some group of Easterners, rightly Southeasterners, led by S.G. Koku, Uchechuku Merije, Professor Chinua Achebe, led Dr. Ikemo Keke, led Dr. Aton Wankwo, and my humble self, Dr. Kemode. All these names I'm calling, they're all dead. I think I'm the only one alive at that level. Decided to join Malam Aminu Kano. We analyzed the whole Nigerian political structure and believed.
As the People's Democratic Party then? No.
The People's Redemption Party.
People's Redemption Party, sorry.
And we believed that he was one of the old politicians that at least you have access to. Even if he took money somewhere, he had conscience. You can relate that this is a human being with conscience. So we all supported him. What happened? The population given to us in Kano was that we had 7-point-something million people to vote. And I was the chairman of the calculatory process of how we were going to form a government. And I said between Kano, Kaduna, and Borno that we will win majority vote. We might not have a spread, so that when we go for a second ballot, with that majority vote, Aminu Kano will be president of Nigeria. Do you know what happened? Imo State, 1.3 million people voted for Zik in Imo State alone. In Kano State, 990-something people voted for Madam Aminu Kano, a loved son of Kano State. Where were the rest 6.8 million people? That's answering your question about the dishonesty, not only in Kano, everywhere. So if you fundamentally tell yourself falsehood about your own home, you're here, you're thinking of what do I do to this, my son, my daughter, my wife, you know the number. But at a state level, governor does not know the number of people he's running government after. A local government chairman does not know the number of people in his local government. Dishonestly, because if people want to know, we know. We have habitations everywhere. We know who lives next to who, but we're not interested. So everything we do is forgery, 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 and such comic dishonesty has become a way of life. So I think, and I want to say it with honesty, a revolution is needed to change the course of history. Because civilians cannot do it. All the major changes that have happened in this country was done by the military. Have we been able to create local governments? Lagos should not have 20 local governments. There's no way Lagos should have 20. They should have a minimum of 50 local governments. At least approaching to what Kano has.
At a time when some group of people are also asking that we go back to regional government.
Well, this is also part of, people are talking about that because, okay, look at, in recent times, there was something I wanted to talk about. When I look at the president and his wife, I was watching on your platform, I think it was Honor Serena was sharing it on social media, where the first lady of this country, at least first lady today, a few years back, was asking Igbos to leave Lagos so that they will inherit their properties. Today, she is supposed to be the mother of the whole country. I wonder what kind of mother he wants an Igbo man to be looking at her. if she has that perception that Igbos should leave Lagos, and now somebody was telling me something, I said, in 1951-52, when who later became Queen Elizabeth II came to Lagos, there was no vehicle, only a Juku, General Ojuku had a Rolls Royce. So that Rolls Royce they used to carry the Queen. And he was living at Iboshere. The Queen had to visit that place. Who is this man? That was how he was knighted in 1953. Who is this man with a Rolls Royce? That they didn't know. But the ambassador told her, you have a Rolls Royce when you come. She went to Kenya. It was in Kenya that the father died and she went back and became queen. So what I'm saying is that this agitation for behavior patterns, singularly, economic, envy, we should not be. We have lived long enough for us to develop love. Most of my friends are Northerners and Yorubas I have met in politics. If you doubt, I'll call a telephone and tell you what is happening in any part of the Southwest. From NRC to PDP, and they will give me exact information. They also call me and I'll tell them what is happening in the Southeast. I can't tell them a lie.
So why is it difficult for us to be able to arrive at a population figure for the nation? Because that's really my question.
I've just exactly told you.
Dishonesty generally?
Dishonesty generally, because there's no honesty in distribution of amenities. So people now, parties and government believe there is an NNPP in Kanu. Took government from an APC government. When it comes to census, both the two governments will come together to make sure Kano remains the largest state in the country because of money. Why? A provision has been made in the Constitution that you distribute money based on population and size of territory, which is a proper thing to do if we are honest in gathering the figures. So if a state that otherwise maybe ordinarily should be 3 million, in 5 years they tell you they are now 8 million. And money is shared to them because they are now 8 million. So this inherent dishonesty has become genetic. And if something becomes genetic, it's difficult to cure. Because somebody succeeding you will want to do better than you did. How does he do better than you did? By telling more lies, doing more crime. Because these things are crimes. To say instead of 2 people, you have 10 people, it's a criminal offense. It is not proper.
Okay, so still trying to, you may say it's generic, but we also believe they can be cured, when the right people, are in power and want to do the right thing. So let's look at some of the suggestions that are coming. I asked at a time where people are talking about regional government, you're talking about creation of more states, which people have also said was part of the problem. The country has different states, different local governments. At the end of the day, everybody's running to Abuja without development in the regions. So that is one issue. Then the Patriots, the group called the Patriots also visited the president recently, and they are actually asking the president for 2 things: an executive bill to the National Assembly, which will talk about Constituent Assembly, and the whole idea is that Nigeria requires a brand new constitution. You've been in politics for a very long time. Do you think that is the way to go now?
I don't think it's the way to go. The problem of Nigeria is not about constitution. If we implement 20% of what we presently have, this place will be like Dubai. Our problem is dishonesty and corruption. It's not the written word. Have we been able even to carry out the one that is written? The one that is written. So you write a new constitution, people will write it. Nigerians, the one we're operating now, Nigerians wrote it. It's not a white man. Even if they were organized by soldiers, are they not Nigerians? But tell me the one we are implementing. The problem of Nigeria is implementation, not in the document. Because people must find a way to sidetrack what is right to their convenience. And come back to what I told you about situational politics, the politics of convenience. This is good for my people, this one is not. That's why we need leadership with some strategic intelligence. If we don't have leadership with strategic intelligence, then we can't make it. There has to be standards. This is a country where standard doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything that this is good. My friend, what you have just done, I give you a job and you didn't do it well, I should have the courage to tell you, Kunle, this is bad. But in 80% of cases, governors surround people around themselves, that we wake up in the morning, all they're telling him is that you are wonderful. Everything you're doing is wonderful. The day he falls out of it, those people will be the first to condemn him. This is why we have failure all over the place.
Okay.
So it is fundamental that we have to change attitude. It's attitudinal. And attitudinal also is genetic. We can consciously begin by talking to people, as we are discussing now. People are listening. People call me. People call me and say, oh, thank you for saying this, for saying that. I say, it's not enough to say thank you. Those who are in government, we are now discussing, most governors are sleeping. As we are speaking now, 80% of governors in this country are still sleeping. If you ask them, they say, oh, they close down by 4 o'clock in the morning. Why should you close down by 4 o'clock in the morning? You must have a time lag of what you do. And in PDP in those days, I used to insist, you don't run a government beyond 12 midnight. Nothing will spoil the next day. So that you have a rest, be a human being, wake up at least 7 o'clock or 6:30 in the morning, prepare for the next day. How can a human being be working till 4 a.m.? What are they working? Sharing money. Sharing money, because there's nothing meaningful you will tell me that they are thinking about for the interest of this country. That's what up to today. 774 local governments. Kunle and Unkali, water is not running anywhere. Don't you think the time is coming for revolution?
And you want more created. So that's the question.
And they want more created. 36 states, water is not running in for 2 hours in most of the state capitals. How about the federal capital?
All right, Chief, you mentioned something that caught my attention in closing. You said political convenience. You said politics of convenience is what people are playing now.
Situational politics.
Yes, and if I remember correctly, I think I first met you in 2003, and you were chairman of the PDP in Anambra State. Then you've seen the People's Democratic Party at its finest hour, and of course at various levels of development when the party is not doing as well as it ought to do, as many people have commented over time. And I'd like to ask you to do something as a party elder. What advice would you give to the party leadership at this point? Because the party seems to be at some level, some crossroad right now.
You know, there's one important thing in leadership. Leadership is not about speech making or attributes. It's about delivering results. And if you don't have courage, like you mentioned in 2003, I was chairman of PDP in Anambra. And this station, even though my late friend was chairman then, I had 5 different press conferences against the presidency of Olusegun Obasanjo on their attempt to kidnap Ngige. But you see, Obasanjo is a different type of Nigerian that people didn't know how we became very close later. Every day he sees me on television, as it were, insulting him, not really insulting him, but telling him the bad things he's doing. He cannot organize people to go and kidnap a state governor for whatever reason, because he wanted to change, he wanted something. And I made serious arguments. And one day I came into Abuja. My brothers working with him told him I was in town, and he sent somebody to come and collect me. And they thought I would run away. I know I came. And for nearly 45 minutes, my first visit, he was looking at me, and I was looking at him. He said, "Oga, don't you think my face is familiar to you?" He said, "Me? Because you have been insulting me?" I said, "No. I have eaten with you." He said, "Me?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Oga, in 1970, myself and Colonel Akunobi surrendered under you. I have just been promoted major in Biafra Army. So all majors and above were sent to Port Harcourt for clearance.
All right.
And you were the chairman of the clearing, and Danjuma was your secretary. So, and you were offering me to be given lieutenant in Nigerian Army. And I said the minimum I will accept is a captain."
Chief.